Now let's talk about China. This year was supposed to be about their economic recovery. Instead, the Communist Party is dealing with a new problem, a new debt crisis. And the amount is staggering. $23 trillion. These are loans owed by the Chinese government. And a large chunk of this debt is accounted for, like what the Chinese government has borrowed by issuing bonds to the general public. This is accounted for, and this is not the problematic part. What's causing an alarm is the hidden debt in China. Now, what's hidden debt? These are loans taken by local governments. They're off the books. They're hidden. So it's hard to say how big these loans are. The estimates vary depending on who you ask. But no matter who you ask, they'll all tell you one thing. This is serious. Investment bank Goldman Sachs has one estimate. It says China's local governments owe $8.5 trillion. The International Monetary Fund, or the IMF, has a different number. Their figure is $10 trillion. That's more than 40% of the initial estimate and over 80% of China's GDP. That's right. According to one estimate, China's GDP today stands at a little over $12 trillion and the local government debt is at $10 trillion. These are the IMF's numbers. Whichever figure you choose to believe, it doesn't change a fundamental problem. Loans like these are unsustainable. They could push Chinese provinces towards bankruptcy. In fact, in some places, it's already happening. Hegang is a remote coal town in northeastern China. It is near China's border with Russia. Close to 1 million people live here. They're all suffering a financial crisis. According to one report, locals in Hegang do not have indoor heating. Taxi drivers are being slapped with more fines. Public school teachers fear job cuts. Street cleaners haven't got their salaries in 2 months. And these are all signs of financial distress. Reports say there's a cash crunch. And this story is not unique to this town of Hegang. It's playing out in the Guizhou region too. They're facing a debt crisis. Do you know how much money they owe? 2.6 trillion yuan, that's $380 billion, or 130% of Guizhou's GDP. How did this happen? How did a province borrow so much money without any checks and balances? Like I said, it was done off the books. In China, you have something called LGFVs. That's Local Government Financing Vehicles, LGFVs. And what are these? These are basically private companies. These are companies created by local officials just to borrow money. This is a way to bypass the official channels. And it serves two purposes. One, the debt doesn't show up on the official balance sheets. And two, there is no limit on how much money you can borrow. So these local governments keep raising more cash. And now that debt pile is crushing them. It's hard to say how many provinces are in distress, but reports mention some very frequently like Guizhou, Henan, Heilongjiang, Hubei and Guangdong. All these provinces are in debt distress. Either their provincial governments have loans to pay or specific cities there are under strain. Either way, it's bad news for Xi Jinping. Bankrupt provinces is the last thing the Chinese president needs. Earlier this year, he asked officials to rein in debt. In fact, let me quote from a speech that was published in a Chinese journal. This is what he said. It's necessary to consolidate the responsibility of provincial level governments to prevent and resolve hidden debts, increase efforts to dispose of outstanding hidden debts, optimize the maturity structure of debts, reduce the interest burden, steadily promote the unified supervision of local government hidden debt and on-the-books debt, and resolutely curb the increase of hidden debt. These are Xi Jinping's words. He wants to double income levels in China by 2035, but these hidden debts will come in the way. Any debt distress poses a risk for Xi Jinping because it will impact the middle class. It could widen the gap between the rich and the poor, and that in turn would threaten social stability and pose a challenge to the rule of the Communist Party. Can China control this crisis before it blows in its face? Well, knowing them, they'll first try to control the narrative and scrub off such reports.